It's official. The GOAT, Tom Brady, and my boy Philip Rivers have new teams. I believe this warrants a little NFL talk. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
It's a me,
Dario!
Woohoo! Let's go!
So it's official. News just came down. Basically, the two biggest free agent quarterbacks out there, the longest tenured quarterbacks out there have new teams. And this actually has a lot of implications for the NFL in general. But I don't care about any about that. I care about how this makes me feel. But before I get into it, let me just give you a quick reminder. You can listen to the podcast anywhere: SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, the iHeartRadio app. Just type in Super Dario World Podcast. You'll find it right there. Please subscribe. Also, any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram or at Super Dario World. So, all right. So, what does this mean? If you guys remember a few episodes back, and this was probably like 20, 30 episodes back, I talked about it was official that Philip Rivers and the Chargers were separating. For those of you who don't know, I live in San Diego. I grew up in the San Diego area. My father was a San Diego Chargers fan. My grandma is a San Diego Chargers fan. And so I grew up a Chargers fan. When the Chargers left to LA, I wasn't sure how to feel about it. But, I mean, all my favorite players were a part of that team. So I figured, you know what? I may hate the team for leaving, but the players had nothing to do with this. I still like Philip Rivers. I still like Antonio Gates. I still like everybody there. So I'll keep rooting for that team until my favorite players leave. Now, everybody pretty much is come and gone. The only one that was left was Philip Rivers. Philip Rivers is gone now officially. And so it's like, all right, well, I did not know what to do. I did not know how to feel about the whole situation. And I still kind of don't, because I have a lot of conflicting feelings here. So first off, let's start off with Philip Rivers. And I'll just tell you where both of them went. Tom Brady has officially signed with the Buccaneers. And Tom Brady, for those of you who don't know, is the greatest quarterback of all time, considered the greatest football player of all time. Dude has won 6 Super Bowls and is just honestly, how old is he? 43. He's older, but he's probably still better than most of the QBs in the league. Not all of them, but most. And he was universally considered to be the first domino that needed to fall in order for the whole free agency quarterback thing to start taking place. Nobody was going to sign anybody until Tom Brady was out of the market, right? That's what the universal consensus was. So as soon as Tom Brady fell, then it's pretty logical that now Philip Rivers falls and everything, because one is a consequence of the other. So Tom Brady signed for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which was weird. I'll get into that in a minute. But Philip Rivers signed with the Indianapolis Colts. So it's official. Philip Rivers will be a Colt. He's moving his family to Indianapolis. He will be playing there. Now, first off, right off the bat, it's really weird because I just read an article that says that the Colts were never even considering Tom Brady. They weren't in the market for Tom Brady. Now, Tom Brady is it's way older than Philip Rivers, and that's probably why. But if you're just looking for a transition quarterback, I don't understand why you wouldn't even try to get Tom Brady. Doesn't really make much sense, but whatever. As far as I can tell, the best quarterback job that was available was the Indianapolis Colts, because they have the best defensive line. Their division is not that crazy. It's not that crazy. It's not easy, but it's not the most difficult. It's not the most difficult division either. And they play in an indoor stadium. So it's a perfect scenario for a quarterback who's not very mobile like Philip Rivers, who's getting a little bit older. Just look at Drew Brees. Playing inside of a stadium, playing inside of a dome has been great for his career. And so it keeps you younger, you know? And playing behind a good offensive line is something that Philip Rivers has probably never had in his career. Look at tape from the last few years of the Chargers. Dude's running for his life most of the time, has to throw the ball like a second after he gets it because they're chasing him. That his stupid offensive line has always been extremely porous, to say the least. Now he has been a turnover machine because dude he's a gunslinger. He believes in throwing it and giving his receivers a chance. Now the Colts actually have a pretty decent, like I said, great offensive line. They have a great they have a great running back there with Marlon Mack, and whose performance should go up now with a legit quarterback there throwing the ball. He's got T.Y. Hilton, who is let's call him an elite receiver. Dude hasn't had somebody throwing him the ball for a while because, I mean, since Andrew Luck left, well, he was injured, and then he retired. So, but he still puts up good numbers. He puts up decent fantasy numbers. So, it's a good scenario for an aging quarterback. And they just signed DeForest Buckner. They traded for him with the 49ers, who is a great defensive end. So the defense is going up. Honestly, the Colts are looking great right now. So, have I become a Colts fan? Ooh, that's hard to say. Because I did say that I was going to probably root for the team that got Phillip Rivers, and this is a great scenario. I only have a few issues with the Colts, and that's that I hated the Colts for a very long time. So, again, quick reminder: I am from San Diego. If you guys remember, a few years back, the Chargers actually drafted Eli Manning to play for San Diego. Eli Manning said, "I'm not planning to play for the Chargers," and that forced the Chargers to have to trade the Giants for Phillip Rivers, and that's how Phillip Rivers ended up playing for the Chargers, and Eli stayed in New York. And now that made everybody in San Diego hate Eli, and by consequence, you hated his brother Peyton Manning, who played for the Colts. So I hated the Giants and I hated the Colts. Every single season, I was happy to see the Colts lose. I mean, they won a lot, but still, it's like, screw that guy, screw it. So you have that innate hatred for that team. And so it's like, can I root for a team that I hated for so long? And then stupid Peyton Manning comes, he goes into AFC West, the son of a bitch, to play for Denver and wins the Super Bowl. Fuck that guy. Anyway, so I had a natural disdain for him. I don't know how I feel. I know that this is a good scenario for my boy Phillip. Frank Reich, who's the head coach of the Colts, he used to be an offensive coordinator for the Chargers. Looks like he's doing really well there. Honestly, it's a good franchise. The ownership supposedly has a really good rep. It's a good franchise overall. They have a winning mentality. They care for their players. I've never really heard any major complaints from people who've retired from the Colts. So I'm happy for them. And honestly, it does kind of make the Colts one of the more interesting teams this season, at least in the AFC. So actually, both of the teams that just got new quarterbacks are going to be probably the most interesting to watch. And so, all right, I guess I could root for them for a little bit. I don't know exactly how I feel, just because again, I'm already naturally predisposed to hating them, but I'll give them a shot. Also, it doesn't help that their uniforms suck. Like it's a lame blue and white, and it's just a horseshoe. It's nothing compared with the Chargers uniform and the Bolts, but I mean, also thinking back on it, I hated Eli for not wanting to play for the Chargers, but now seeing how the organization has been afterwards, how they left, how they've been like just the worst. They didn't even show their faces to say goodbye or say thank you to the fans. So they basically said, "Screw you guys, we're going to LA. Goodbye, and not even thanks for all the fish. Just go fuck yourselves. Thanks for all the money. Ha ha ha." I guess now I understand why Eli did not want to play there. So I guess that reduces my hatred a little bit. I'm realizing that right now. By the way, I hadn't processed this at all. I haven't processed any of this stuff. So I'll give him a shot. So I guess for this season, my AFC team can be the Colts. I'm officially going to become a Colts fan for this season, at least for to support my boy P. Rib. So I'm going to have to start doing research on all that stupid team right now and all that division and everything. So you can officially call me a Colts fan, at least for this season. All right, that's out. Now let's turn to the other QB that found a new home. And this one was a shocker, because for pretty much the longest time, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been considered like a loser franchise. It's it's kind of like the ugly redheaded stepchild. They're a joke pretty much, which I don't get, because I mean, it's weird. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are considered like a joke, but they've won a Super Bowl. The Chargers haven't won a Super Bowl, and the Chargers are not considered a joke. I think they're mostly respectable. However, the owners are considered a joke, which, you know what? Good. Fuck them. So it's weird. I mean, they have a Super Bowl under their belt, but all right, whatever. Now let's explore them a little bit. First off, great name. I love the name Buccaneers. I love their logo. I like Pirates in general, so I think that's cool there. That's way better than the Colts. But why did Tom Brady sign there? Well, in spite of it being a loser franchise, well, first off, they have a killer offense, and I mean so many offensive weapons. So many. They got Chris Evans, Chris Godwin, and like I think they were a top 5 offense last season, even with Jameis Winston, who is a turnover machine, and they were top 5 in defense too. So it's a legit team. They should be a contender. Both the Colts and the Buccaneers should be playoff contenders, especially now that they've added an extra team. Don't be surprised if both of those teams actually make it to the Super Bowl, which would be insane and hysterical. But let's continue exploring this a little bit more. So you're Tom Brady, you're 43, you for the first time in your career, honestly, I did not expect him to leave New England. I expected him to stay there because for his entire career, Tom Brady has never been a guy who chased money, or at least he didn't appear to be. Usually he took smaller contracts to make sure they could hire better players around him, but it looks like this time, for the first time, he actually, and the reason why is probably because, I mean, he's married to Giselle Bunzel, who makes more money than he does. So, I mean, I guess you don't really have to chase money if your wife already makes more money than you do. But this time it looks like he did. And so if you're chasing money, by the way, the two teams that were in the running for him, according to reports, were the Chargers and the Buccaneers. So the only thing I have to say here, and I want to come out perfectly, so let me just... Suck it! Fuck you, Spanos. That's what you get. That's what you get. Tom Brady would have brought in so many butts to that stadium. It would have done such great things for the franchise. So fuck you, you don't deserve it. Perpetual losers. Anyway, I'm still a little bitter, if you can tell. So Tom Brady basically gave an FU to California because he's like, you know what? I'd rather go to Florida where the taxes are better. Honestly, that seems like that was the main reason, because the Chargers supposedly had a good team, but again, it's pretty much the same team as last year, and they didn't do much. They were pretty much at the bottom of their division, so yeah. On paper, turns out is not as good as on the field. Anyway, so Tom Brady picked what was a better team on the field, and where, you know, his money goes a lot further because Texas and Florida are way better than Texas and California. So he goes there, and now what does this mean? It was a really odd choice for many reasons. One, historically, like I said, the Buccaneers are not considered to be a great franchise, but they got Bruce Arians there, the head coach, who's I don't know why Bruce Arians did not do better. I guess he didn't have a starting QB in Arizona, but the dude's so considered to be like a quarterback whisperer. He is a great. I like he's aggressive. I like his style, and supposedly he's the opposite of Bill Belichick. And Bill Belichick is like cold and hard. This guy's supposed to be like way nicer. So it's a difference in tone there, but it's also the franchise. Like in general, they don't have a bad rep, but they don't have the greatest rep. But you know, leadership. I guess the main thing that you go for is probably the head coach, and if you mesh well with that guy and you agree on what the plan should be, and because Tom Brady right now is in the position in his career where he can just pretty much pick wherever he wants and what he says and almost run his own offense, right? Almost, not entirely, but almost. Also, he's getting up there in age, so moving to a warmer climate makes perfect sense. Playing when you're 43, playing in Boston does not sound fun at all. So you get a lot more warmer games. You also get way more games in domes because your division rivals play in domes. Now, the division thing is fascinating. Why he would pick that one, because it's not a particularly easy division. Well, the Panthers had an off season, or actually they had a bad season, but they were in the Super Bowl not too long ago. The Falcons were in the Super Bowl against him not too long ago, so they probably still have a chip on their shoulder there. You know, like the greatest choke job ever. They'd probably still be pretty pissed with TB12. And the Saints, Drew Brees and Tom Brady are neck and neck for the record of most touchdowns scored in the NFL. Well, most touchdowns thrown in NFL history. They're neck and neck. So not only are they division rivals now, they're competing for the record. I mean, of all time. So it's an interesting choice. Like I said, that the AFC South and the NFC South have become, at least to me, the most interesting divisions out there. Maybe the NFC West, because you still got the 49ers, Seahawks there. The Rams kind of, they're on the way down. But however, Arizona, I think it's on the way up, especially that they got DeAndre Hopkins. Which, by the way, let me quick note on this. How fucking stupid are the Texans? How fucking stupid. You have probably the best wide receiver in the NFL, DeAndre Hopkins, who's not a troublemaker, who's made some of the most fantastic catches I've ever seen, who's like broken records receiving with nobody throwing at him, garbage quarterbacks. And now you got a good quarterback, and you got the best receiver overall in the NFL, and you trade him for David fucking Johnson? Really? David Johnson, who had a terrible year. He got benched for Kenyon Drake. By the way, I had both Kenyon Drake and David Johnson in my fantasy team. It was a nightmare. It was fucking brutal. But, I mean, my boy Kenyon Drake, he gave me a lot of points. I'm happy about it. David Johnson, who was, I think, what was it? He was my first round pick? I don't know. Ended up making me rip my hairs out almost. So, trading DeAndre Hopkins for David, there's no comparison. No fucking comparison. Anyway, the point is, the Cardinals have a legit quarterback, Kyler Murray. I actually had him in fantasy. I had too many fucking Cardinals in fantasy, if you can tell. But Kyler Murray gave me a buttload of points. DeAndre Hopkins is probably the best wide receiver in the NFL. And Kenyon Drake is a legit quarterback. He's the legit number one running back. And so the Cardinals should be very interesting. Seahawks have always been very interesting. And the 49ers, it depends on how bad the Super Bowl hangover hits them. But that division, super interesting. It's probably the most interesting in the NFC. Followed very closely, if not beaten by, the NFC South. The only thing that really gives a knock on the NFC South is that the Saints, even though they probably had the best team last season, they just can't seem to get over the Vikings. The Vikings just keep getting them the fuck out of the playoffs every single time. I don't know why. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah. So it was an interesting choice for Tom Brady to go there. It's interesting. A lot of people. It's weird. Tom Brady is like the epitome of the Harvey Dent thing, the Batman thing, that if you live long enough, you become the villain. Because Tom Brady, his life, he's kind of an underdog. Tom Brady has been an underdog pretty much his entire career. Well, not his entire career, but the way it started. I remember I was reading an article, and turns out that when he was in high school, his team lost every single game that season, and they never benched the starting quarterback. And the backup was Tom Brady. So imagine being the team that has a losing record, and you had Tom Brady on the bench. It's beyond stupid looking back on it, but at that point, who knows? Then afterwards in college, he didn't really go to like one of the most important colleges to play. Then on the draft, famously, he was 197th, and he hasn't let that go. Dude hasn't let it go. I remember I was hearing an interview for the Super Bowl, and it was like, oh, well, you've won 5 Super Bowls already, blah, blah. How do you feel? His answer was, oh, it's not bad for a guy who was drafted 197th. The dude just can't let it go. He has a 197-ton chip on his shoulder. Can't let it go. So it's interesting to see where he went. Honestly, I'm excited. The news today for the NFL is exciting. I'm happy that you know what? I'll root for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now in the NFC. Usually I kind of go with the Seahawks because for some reason or another when we do the playoff thing, I end up with the Seahawks. And so I've learned I learned a lot about the team, the players, and all that stuff, and that's usually a big factor here. But now I'm excited for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially because they play the Chargers one day, one game this season. I'm excited for the Colts. So maybe I'm a South guy now, maybe. So I think at least this season I'm going to be rooting for those teams. Those teams are the ones that I'm rooting for. I'm hoping they make it to the Super Bowl together, and we'll see how it goes. Because at least on paper, right now, so far off with no injuries pretty much, they look exciting. Anyway, I think that's it. That's it for... That DeAndre Hopkins thing was just too insane. It was just too insane. How stupid can you be? Also, San Francisco getting rid of DeForest Buckner. I mean, it's good for the Colts. It's good for the Colts. And right now I'm rooting for the Colts, so it's good. Anyway, I think that's it for today. There's going to be a lot more NFL news coming up because free agency, I think, officially kicks off, and teams get the season officially kicks off. I believe it already started, so a lot of news is coming down, but I don't think anything is going to be bigger than that. So, as always, any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram or at SuperDario_World. Let me know what you think. What are your thoughts about these trades? Am I crazy for rooting for these teams? Am I a trader? Or who are you rooting for? I want to know. If you were a Charger fan or you're still a Charger fan, let me know. As always, thank you for listening, and I'll see you again next time.